Welcome to the Life Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele VanDusen and June Colson. A couple of clean comedians here to support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. They'll talk about highs and lows and some traumatizing shows. So get ready, get set, let's go! Welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast, brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network. I'm your host, June Colson, here with my amazing friend, Michele, with 1L VanDusen.
What?
What's okay?
Good morning.
You have a new background. You are so colorful. What is that? And did you make that? I must know.
Yes, I was doing laundry and I had to dry it, so I just threw it up behind me. No.
That would be a great. So everything that your family wears is tie-dyed. That's pretty wicked.
Yeah,
That's
pretty much.
awesome.
That's all it is. No, I those actually are the curtains that were hanging in my husband's office. And we swapped them out last night for some blackout, like gray colored ones.
Yes.
And they were dirty, so I did wash these and then hung them here to dry. And I thought I kind of like that. So I thought I'd leave it.
I'm digging it. It's got a kaleidoscope look on one of them and so colorful. Now we got the curtains behind me. I didn't realize they're blackout curtains. And so whenever I moved to do the podcast inside the bedroom so that I could get away from my crazy family, I closed the curtains. But now it's really bugging me because I can see that one of them has a little crack in it. You see that little crack of light back there? It bugged me. But anyway, I closed them. And the first few days that I forgot to open them back up after we recorded, I slept so late, so late, because you don't know, your body doesn't, the sunshine doesn't come through the window. And so I have no idea what time of day it is, if it's, dark or whatever. So that's really messed me up. So yeah, so he traded his rainbow, beautiful colored curtains for blackouts. That's kind of dark. That's kind of dark.
It's his office used to be my office. And so I had those and, he never swapped them out, and they were just dusty and dirty. I'm like, I need to wash those. And he's like, well, what am I going to do? I don't want people knowing that I'm in. I'm like, here's another set of curtains. So he took the gray. Yeah.
I'm not surprised though that you had those beautiful bright colored curtains and your husband took the office and could have cared less what curtains were in the window, because they don't care. Most men, they don't. I can tell you, my husband could care less about the curtains that's in his office. And I spent oh my gosh, I spent probably 4 days. He was out of town. I rearranged his entire office. I painted picture frames. I set everything up. I'm so proud of it. I love it. Every time I go in there and sit and look around his office, I'm like, this looks so good. And his response, nice job.
It's nice. Yeah. Is the chair comfy? That's pretty much.
Yeah.
I like the chair. So
I told you, Michele, I got to talk to you about what happened to me yesterday, and then we're going to get our guest on here. But so you know that I'm always sending you videos of the wild animals in my neighborhood, right? So there's squirrel. I've showed her deer that are on the trail staring at me. I just know one day. Have you ever seen those videos where the deer attack the people? They jump. I just know that's going to happen one day. And
that's why I appreciate you sending me the videos on the just in case it happens. So thank you.
Yes. So we're you could be famous. I'll be dead, but you could be famous. So then we've had the bobcat in the woods. Then I have the hoot owl that's kind of freaking me out. We get home from church yesterday and I'm still in the garage, and my husband takes the dogs out back and he calls me and he goes, where are you at? And I said, I'm in the garage. And he said, come outside, look at what's on our roof, and then run for your life. And I was like, wait, what is happening now? Michele, there was a giant buzzard on top of our house, just sitting on our house, looking down where the dogs were playing in the backyard. I don't know if the woodland creatures have gotten together, because I'm telling you, my dog Raider, he looks delicious.
And he's old.
He's old. He's slow. He's he's exactly what animals like buzzards and bobcats are looking for. He's chubby. He's only got one eye. His teeth have fallen out. He can't walk. And I feel like they put out some memo in the woods, and they're like, this is where the meal for the entire ridgeway is going to come from, is from my little fat puggle in the backyard.
Okay. I know we shouldn't be laughing about this, but my friends have, like, you just make sure that you don't have radar out there the same time that you're barbecuing, because sometimes that will bring more animals in and go, "Oh, there's the meal," and they'll just swoop down and take it
Oh my
because
gosh.
a lot of those little purse puppies, those little purse dogs,
Yes.
a lot of them have been lost, to the birds,
Yeah.
and it's like, that's the most expensive meal ever, like, it was dressed in Gucci.
Okay, so I have to tell you, um,
Yeah.
once again, you got a name wrong, and you do it every time. What is my dog's name,
Wait,
Michelle?
it's radar.
It's
No.
Raider. It's Raider.
Raider?
Like pirates, Raider. He's a Raider.
I this
You
whole
always
time
call
I
him.
thought that dog was that little bear from MASH.
No, he's Raider. You
Oh,
always call him Radar. And I bring that up because you're
Raider.
getting ready to introduce our guest. And we all know that you have a habit of saying the wrong name. So I'm going to hold my breath because we have such an awesome guest on our show today. And I don't want you to mess up his name. So
Okay.
let's see. Little prayers going up. Michelle, tell us who's on the show.
All right, so today we have a man who's been a Christian stand-up comedian since 2010. He was cast in a faith-based film, Love Different. You can check that out on Amazon Prime or Pureflix. It's got some pretty famous people in there.
Mhm.
Um, Maurice also hosts his own virtual talk show weekly on the Creative Motion Network, on Roku TV, the Pulpit TV. I think it's Pizzazz TV in England, or it's just PZAZ. I'm going to call it Pizzazz. And again, making it up. And you can see Maurice perform regularly in the Washington, D.C. area. So let's welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast, Maurice Brown.
Let's go. Maurice Brown. Maurice Brown.
Hey guys, how's it going? Michelle, you're doing a great job. I love your
Oh.
announcing skills, and I think you're ready for NBC. Remember, Michelle, that Raider, you got to think about the football team. Every time you think
Yes.
about June's dog,
Yes.
think about the football team, the Raiders, and then
Oh.
call her dog Radar.
And he's kind of
Oh,
shaped
okay.
like a football, so that should help. Michelle, you made it through the name of our guest, but you didn't make it through the name of our show. Maurice, I know you're kind of in awe of the professionalism. We've had technical difficulties. Michelle doesn't know the name of our show, but we are so excited to have you on here because I know you've been doing broadcasting for a long time. You
Yeah.
get it. You know that no matter how it happens, the show must go on, right?
The show must go on. I tell you, you guys are talking about your. I think June, you were talking about your husband not caring about the curtains,
Yes.
and
no.
men don't care about that stuff because we're immature, we're silly, we don't care about much of anything. I mean, it's women are like you don't see women at a dinner party say something like, "Could you pass the sugar, meathead?" Women don't do that.
Right,
So anyway, yeah,
right?
we're just silly, immature guys.
Yes,
It's
we
great to be on
usually-
your show, though. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're thrilled to death to have you. Michelle and I
Yes.
have had the opportunity to be a part of your Bible study, your weekly Bible study, and that's been
Yep.
a huge blessing and a way to connect to other comedians. And so we were thrilled to death that you agreed to come on and hang out with us today. So
Absolutely.
Michelle gave you the information, kind of told you the direction of what the show is, and I know you've been doing comedy for a while. And so Maurice, we want to know as you got started when you were, little Maurice Brown getting on stage for the very first time and you were
Oh.
trying to figure out this crazy world of comedy.
Yes.
What kind of people, who did God place in your life that helped you along the way and begin this journey and grow in this journey?
Well, it's a great question, June. I was a radio announcer back in
Mm.
North Carolina in the early 90s. And my operations manager, he thought I was pretty funny, so he suggested that I try stand-up. And it was at a comedy club in Raleigh, North Carolina called Charlie Goodnight's, one of the premier comedy clubs on the East Coast.
Mm.
So they had an open mic there, 20, 25 guys. I put a little set together, and they only picked 4, and I was one of the 4, believe it or not. First time I'd ever done stand-up.
Nice.
And it was at North Carolina State University, a bunch of kids there that had maybe, and I do mean maybe one Budweiser Is there too many? But anyway, they were
Yes.
all over the place. The stage was like in the middle of the club, and I was so nervous. It was unreal. And I don't even know how I got through that set. I mean, I was so nervous. First time I'd ever done it. So, and then I got back. I didn't do it again. I think it was 1992. And I continued with radio. And then in 97, I moved up here to the D.C. area, and I was the host at Headliners Comedy Club in Bethesda, Maryland. But, I met my wife at the time. I started dating her. I became more interested in her than comedy.
Yep.
You see.
Yep.
And so, so I stopped doing it, and, I just raised our family and so forth. In 2010, we bought a cafe. And to bring in business, I started producing comedy shows. I said, I know how to do this thing. I've done comedy before. And I started, bringing in people like Brad Stein and Marcus D. Wiley and some other comedians that are fairly well known. And I said, you know what? What the heck? Just go for it. See what happens. In 2013, I decided that I was just going to just go for broke and not look back. And of course, acting, came alongside of it very soon after. And, the rest is kind of history, really. Here we are on the Laugh Support broadcast.
There it is. Look, Maurice knows the name of the show. Look at that, Michele. That's so cool, though. So, yeah. So, the different people that we've interviewed, they've kind of talked about that, how there has been ebbs and flows in their comedy journey, because there are some people who did start younger and single, and then their focus became something different. So you opened this cafe.
Yeah.
And so what was the name of the cafe?
It was called Cafe Majestic.
Cafe Majestic.
How about that?
What kind of food?
Oh yeah.
Well, my wife's Brazilian, so we had a lot of Brazilian food there. My gosh, I mean, I don't know. We've had delicacies like couscous, which is kind of like a favorite as well. But I mean, my gosh, we just had different types of Brazilian food, and you got to remember I'm a guy, so I don't remember everything. But we, but we had a lot of Brazilian food. I'll leave it at that. Also American food as well. We just had all different types of foods there. But my main focus was the entertainment part, and we had some really awesome shows over there. It's too bad that we only had it for 2 years, but that kind of like got me off and running in the entertainment world.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like she was she was a laugh support for you, that she was very supportive of what you were doing.
Very supportive. Matter of fact, I get half my jokes from my wife. She's much funnier than I am. I mean, she's got a great sense of humor. So we spend most of our time making jokes about different things all the time. Anyway, I mean, that's all we do is laugh and make jokes about different things. And I form a lot of my material from our conversations. We're working on a joke right now that about an experience that my daughter had. Because I have these jokes where I talk about thugs, right? And, young kids, good kids thinking that they're thugs, in our society today. They don't know anything about it. I'm like, what YouTube hood did you come from? You don't know anything about this stuff. But I got a bunch of jokes about it. So anyway, but yeah, she's definitely my laugh support.
What about the kids? Now I can tell you, my kids, early on, I just used my new sets of comedy as punishment for them. I would make them, just sit in a chair and listen to what mommy said, rather than, because they got too big. They were boys. They were strong. I couldn't spank them anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I just made them sit and listen to my material,
Oh, yeah.
And if I got a laugh, Maurice, I knew I had something, because they were in trouble. They don't want to hear what mommy's doing. And then if they laughed, I was like, oh, this is golden. This is going to be my closer, because my kids laugh.
Oh, no.
What about your
you
kids?
forgot to take the phone away. I'm thinking you probably just forgot to take their phone away. They're texting.
Right.
Well, it's like penance for them, because I used to do that to them when they were like in their mid-teens, early to mid-teens. I would have them sit down and listen to my entire set, and it was just brutal for them to have to do that, man. I mean, so no, they don't like that very much. So had them stop doing it when they got like 15, 16. And of course, I got much funnier. Guys, I started out, it was
Mm.
bad. You know what? When I started, it was really brutal. It's like you can be funny, but you got to know how to write a joke.
Yes.
You have
Yeah.
to know how to work an audience, and you just have to know how to navigate up there. You know what I mean? And so the process in the beginning is really difficult because you bomb
Mm.
a lot.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. And I was going out to these clubs in D.C. Most of these kids are like 20 years younger than me.
Right.
At the time. I mean, they still are, man. But I learned the rhythm of what makes that age group laugh.
Mm.
And so at the beginning, it was brutal for my kids because I was trying to really figure it out.
Right.
And but I finally got a good rhythm going and so forth. And so my son, who's 23 now, is actually a comedian. He's very good. But
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, I can identify with making them listen though, Judy.
Yes, yes. Ah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So early on in comedy, or even just over the years, is something that someone told you, or a piece of advice that you really
Yeah,
latched onto when you went, yeah,
yeah.
this has made a difference, or maybe something that you still use today.
You know what? I'm still learning from comedians.
Yeah.
Like I'm still learning stuff that it's like groundbreaking. Especially through my show that I do. I'm
Mm.
interviewing people
Hmm.
like Michael Jr. and Jeff Allen and Mark Christopher Lawrence. My gosh, Matt Falk, who was in Sleeper Agent with Leland Clausen, and Leland Clausen,
Yeah.
both of
Yes.
those guys
Yeah.
I had on my show, and just picking up stuff. But what got me going, I think the linchpin advice that I got that has just propelled me on was in 2013. I was attending an academy called Actors, Models, and Talent for Christ, AMTC. I
Hmm.
don't know if you guys have ever heard of them or not, but
Yeah.
I was
Hmm.
involved there, and there was a coach there named Derek Morgan. He said, "Listen, Maurice, let me tell you something. I know you want to do your Christian comedy in churches and in, sanitized environments. I get it.
Mm.
But, dude, you got some pretty good stuff there, and you need to take it to the world. That's why God
Mm.
blessed you with that ability. So
Mm.
people that are lost can hear you." And I never thought, let me tell you guys something. I never considered going to a bar and doing like just a regular bar, a regular saloon, a regular comedy club, secular comedy club. I never even entertained that thought until I had that conversation with Derek Morgan,
Mm.
who's in a bunch of Tyler Perry movies, very good actor. And I said, okay. And from that moment on, I just decided that that's all I was going to do was go to. Of course, I do churches. I mean, there's no question about that. But I focus on secular environments, and
Mm.
I'll go in there. I'll do a set. I mean, everybody's cussing like sailors,
Right.
and then I'll get up there and I'll do my set, and then after about a minute, they'll go, he's not gonna cuss, but I like him, and I've had effects like that on audiences where,
Yeah.
and I just use that approach. I don't announce, "Hey, I'm a Christian comedian, by the way, everybody." I don't do that.
Right.
Just
Right.
go there, let the set speak for itself, and so that's the linchpin advice that I got in the beginning of this from Derek Morgan, which was huge, and it
Mm.
just changed my entire concept and approach as not only a comedian but as an actor as well. So
Wow. Michelle,
yeah.
now I know you've been in environments like that as well. I love the way he just described that, though. He said, I know you like to do that, your
Hmm.
thing in sanitized environments. That's,
Yeah.
That was good.
yeah, that was really good. Does it ever, like Michelle, when it comes to events that you go to that potentially you find yourself in the lineup of you're the only clean person, does that intimidate you? Does that excite you? What does that do for you, Michelle?
Two things. One, it makes me want to be funnier.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Um, and then I also want to make sure that when that I stay and I support them, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
listen to their jokes, and I try to, as I'm listening, finding out, like, oh, maybe this will be a good tag for them or something like that, where I try to help enhance what they're doing,
Right.
because
Mhm.
a lot of
Right.
them, they're funny. They're just funny in the wrong direction, And so
Oh yeah.
I try because I figure if I'm not there, and I just come in and do my stuff and I leave,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
then
Yeah. Absolutely.
they're like, she's kind of snotty, and I don't want that kind of attitude. I don't want that to
Yeah.
be carried with me. So if I'm in those environments, I make sure I stay, and then I go home and I wash everything off. I turn on some praise and worship music. I
Yes.
start
Well, yeah.
reading,
Oh, you got to
just to change
wash that
everything in my
stuff.
brain.
Hey, Michelle, you got to wash that stuff off. It gets pretty murky, but I could tell you
Yeah.
right now, I learned that too early on. After I developed a pretty good rhythm and style, one of the younger comics said, Maurice comes in, he kills, and he leaves, right? And I thought, you know,
Mm.
I made it my point to stay because I really it's really difficult to listen to that stuff they're talking about up there. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
dark,
Yeah.
Yes.
it's unreal, and I'm going, oh my gosh, these kids are so lost. So I made it my point after I performed to stay for at least 4 or 5 of them, to let them know, hey, look, I'm supporting you. I want to see what you got, and then have some conversations here and there, and then throw out some
Yeah.
advice because I told them, I said, look, man, let me tell you something. You're funny, but all that verbiage, that extra verbiage you're using is totally unnecessary. If you take it out, you're going to find it's just as funny. And if you're really trying to make it, you love Bill Burr because he cusses all the time. But if Jay Leno asked him to come on his show and do 10 minutes of clean, he'd have no problem doing it.
Yeah.
So you can do it whatever style you want, but be able to do clean.
Yeah.
I've tried to sell this to a lot of young comics, and and they're paying attention and they do get it. But that's the advantage and the bonus, Michelle, of just staying and
Hmm.
making an attempt to commiserate with these guys, so they won't look at you as a snotty person. You don't want that either.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, that kind of rolls us into to the next question. So you've been doing comedy for a while. You've had people who
Yeah,
kind of invested in you and spoke some advice to you.
yeah.
And now that you've been doing it as long as you have you had an opportunity where it's flipped and you've been able to be the laugh support to somebody else?
Well, that's really a good question. I honestly don't know how to answer that. I think that like I said, my wife and I are always kidding around, and I think that outside of that, well, well, to tell you the honest truth, Jude, I think I'm able to. I keep a lot of my personal friends laughing a lot, and I'm always actually joking around with I'm always joking around with my personal friends, my circle of friends. I
Yes.
tend to keep them laughing quite a bit, and it's not like you're doing it on purpose. It's like we're just comics. We just can't stop it.
Hmm.
We we
Yes.
Yeah.
we we just can't. And we're always got this thing in our mind, like, how can I make a joke out of this? Oh, that's funny. I could actually oh,
Mm.
that would be gold. You're thinking these things all the time. And I mean, you can't have a normal, it's almost impossible almost to have a normal conversation with someone because you're joking around, you're laughing your head off, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's a good joke. That's a
Yes.
good joke.
Yes.
I gotta put this in my phone. So I would just say my personal circle of friends. It's just a lot of laughter going on there, and so that would be who I'm able to affect in a laugh support
Yeah.
way.
Oh, I love that. I love that. A lot of times people think when we ask that we're like, who are you mentoring, whatever. And that's not
Yeah,
necessarily what we're talking
Hmm.
about. And you're
yeah,
right, laughter, especially in your circle of friends. I'm thinking about right now in my close circle of friends. I've got a lot of friends who are going through some really difficult times right now. There's been
yeah,
loss and there's been illness and there's been, just some tragic things that have happened literally just in the last almost 3 weeks.
yeah.
And when you do have that friend who has that gift of humor that
Hmm.
can also read the room, because that's what comedians are, trained to do. you
Yes.
can find those moments in that dark time, that tragedy, where you can push a little bit of light in there. You can lighten up the moment for a second. You can allow them to laugh and
Yeah.
be free of the pain that they're going through for just 1 second. And that's a huge deal. I know you have definitely been a laugh support for myself and Michele and other comedians because of the Bible study that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about that, how that got started, and how
Yeah.
you chose to get a bunch of crazy comedians in a room together and talk about Jesus.
Yes. Well, I love that show. That is my favorite show because I have the show where I interview entertainers, directors, and so forth, which is cool, and I really enjoy it. But the breaking down the four walls where we do comedians Bible study has like become my favorite show. Like I love doing that show
Me too. I love it.
because there's so much laughter and joy in that show in the midst of learning about God's word. I mean, you just can't beat it. And I got the idea from Jason Earls.
Oh.
Jason Earls and John Nicholas. We were just kicking it one day, talking about it, and I think, but more specifically, I think Jason Earls was like, Maurice, I think I don't know if he suggested that I do it, but we were talking about the novelty of doing something like that, and I just decided to go for it.
Yeah.
That is a novel idea. Like nobody does anything like that. There's nothing out there like that where comedians are just hanging out, laughing and chopping it up, but they're studying the Word of God. Nobody does that. And it's awfully cool.
It is.
And it got picked up, like I said, in New Mexico, and the guys down there feel like there's something special with the show, like it could get the show's got some national possibilities according to the guys in New Mexico. We'll see what happens. But
Nice.
That's kind of where I got it. And yeah, Jason Earls and John Nicholas and we were all talking about it. And I just decided to stop talking and make it happen. And it is a lot of fun. And you know what? That laughter thing it changes the perspective of life for people. If you can just laugh at one little thing.
Yeah.
And then it morphs itself into one thing after another. And you know what I really think too? As comedians, our craft, I think what we do, secular or no, a comedian getting on stage and making a room full of strangers, people you've never seen before in your life, half of which you wouldn't have a conversation with in front of a Walmart. There's just no way you would ever do
Right.
that. I'm not talking to that guy.
Right.
But now we're going to be best buds. And to be able to do that, to me, is nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah.
It's miraculous. What we do is miraculous work. Just there's nothing, and that's nothing against other genres or forms of entertainment like singing and concerts and theatrical presentations and all that stuff. Nothing. Those are beautiful things. But to make strangers laugh, to make them your buddy for 45 minutes, that's a miracle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a connection. It's a unique connection. And that's what you've done with your Bible study class or your Bible study show. Michele and I I used to tease her because she would be on the Monday and I would be on the Wednesday. But now we're, because of your schedule, we're, a lot of times it'll be on Tuesday. We're there together. But I said, man, that ruined it for me because on Monday, I would just listen to all of Michele's wisdom so that on Wednesday, I could just say what she said. And it sounds like I was super smart. And no, I didn't take her words, but I would. And for me, with my life and my schedule, it allowed me to slow down and just focus a little bit on one chapter, on, some verses that, and they get to hear other people's perspective. And man, that's been a really cool laugh support, Maurice. That definitely is a great example of what it looks like to me, I think, for laugh support. So what do you think, Michele? Maurice has been a rocking guest. We've been his guest.
Yes.
He's been an amazing guest today, don't you think?
Yes, I definitely think. And so you were talking about the breaking down the four walls. You can listen to that live on Facebook. Is it also on YouTube?
It's on Facebook, YouTube Live. It's also on Pulpit TV Live. It's also on Pizzazz. You had it right, PZAZ, Pizzazz TV out of England. And then, of course, replays on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV. And that's like I'll do that show at least once a week, sometimes twice. Lately, it's only been once a week. But also, I have the other shows where I interview entertainers, which
Yes.
I may do that 3 times a week. And so you'll get 3 to 5 shows a week from me,
Yes.
live on those platforms that I mentioned, and then you'll see the replay on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV. And also, I alluded to this briefly, KCHF TV in Albuquerque, New Mexico, every Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Breaking Down the Four Walls airs on that platform.
Nice.
So it's cool. A lot of fun. God's doing some things. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Awesome.
I love it. Now I do have so if people want to find you or look you up, they can go to
Yeah.
mbecomedy.com.
Yeah.
What is that? Maurice Brown Entertainment? Is that what
That's
that
right.
stands for?
That's Maurice Brown Entertainment. More specifically, I call it MB Entertainment LLC. But you can go to mbecomedy.com, and you can see all the stuff that I do. Because before the pandemic, I was actually producing shows with 3, 4 comedians, and I was hosting it. And I'd have my son open a lot of the shows. My son's very funny. He would open a lot of the shows, and I would have just different comics on. I was doing it all the time. They were a hit here in Northern Virginia. I were packed out. Those shows were packed out, and we were just having killer shows. And so the pandemic kind of shut all that down. I haven't done anything. I've only been on stage twice. Oh guys,
Wow.
one time on stage. I've done a lot of virtual comedy, but I've only been on stage one time since the pandemic. And I'm like, this is insane. So I'm hoping to get back out there very soon, and I want to get back to producing those shows and get Michele VanDusen, get Colson, Junebug on those shows. Everybody.
I heard they're amazing.
Leland.
I'm just going to
What's
put that
that?
out there. Like, they're
What's that?
really funny. So
Yeah.
you should totally get them on.
Those girls. But you know what, though? A lot of people, the pandemic had that effect on their career. And some people just kind of faded off in the distance, and other people got creative and they figured out what to do, an alternative way with their craft. And what you've been doing has been an amazing thing with the skills that God has given you. You've connected people. You've highlighted. Because of you, I'm addicted to a show called Vindication. Absolutely love it. And but really, and I've told you this before, I do believe you're one of the most supportive comedians out there. I believe that you definitely lift other people up. And it's not about, necessarily yourself all the time. I think you find joy in seeing other people succeed. And that says a lot about you and your personality. So, Maurice, we thank you so much for being on our show today. I don't know if you've listened before, but Michele and I, we had closers, and usually most of the time I just say Jesus and Junebug loves you. And I try to get Michele. I wrote one for her. And I wanted her to say it. Michele, will you tell him what it was? Because she doesn't say it, but
it was little Michele and the Messiah tell you to take it higher. Is that how?
Little Michele and the Messiah tell you to take it higher. But she wouldn't say it, Maurice. She wouldn't say it.
Okay, so, we'll go with that, Michele. We'll work with that.
That's pretty good, isn't it? So here's what I'm thinking for you, okay? Here's what I'm thinking the sign off for Maurice is, okay? You ready?
I'm ready.
Jesus and Maurice say, "We out of here. Peace."
I love it. Jesus and Maurice.
Say peace.
We out of here.
Oh, we out of here.
Deuces, everybody.
Yes, there it is. All right, with that, we are going to be out of here, y'all. Thanks you for listening to the Laugh Support Podcast. I'm June Colson. Say goodbye, Michele VanDusen.
Bye, Michele VanDusen.
Thanks.